Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty crazy double crossing going on over here today. Now, as you guys do or do not know, I kind of think skew a little bit on the PlayStation side, at least in my opinion on the channel, although I do love and try my best to kind of be like a little bit impartial. But this actually is a very big win right now where Xbox has kind of gotten an employee that, well, is a pretty high up from PlayStation. Some really big plans are coming right afterwards. And while this actually might be a really big game changer when it comes to the Xbox and the Xbox ecosystem and the future of the Xbox. So we're going to talk about this, talk about some good drama and all that good stuff. So if you guys will sit back, relax, and enjoy, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. All the Amazon links too is one. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts and comments, just in general. So as you guys probably do or do not know, well, people go and quit jobs. People also get like specific expertise, and as well, some people are more specialized in certain demographics. And that's kind of what's going on over here where, well, a really big higher up from the PlayStation Sony ecosystem has completely jumped ship over to Xbox. Now, that's not the biggest deal because people always go and basically quit jobs, move jobs, and all that all the time. That's a big thing. Like, that's just normal life. If you guys always see people talking about like Fang, like moving from like Facebook to Google to Amazon to go make as much money as they can, there isn't really necessarily too much brand loyalty. But this one's a little bit more on the different side because this number one is in regards now to partnerships and as well also the expansion base of a brand new, almost, I guess, well, ecosystem that doesn't necessarily really exist as of right this second. Now, this is going to be a big one because this is all in regards now to a really big Sony executive who has now jumped ship from PlayStation to join Xbox to lead Japanese partnership operations. Now, this, like, you guys could probably go and assume from some of this stuff. Number one, now, if you're leaving from PlayStation, well, you're leaving from PlayStation, you're leaving Sony, going to Xbox. That's one kind of big pickup. Number two is you have a lot of internal information coming from these moves as well. If you're a prior PlayStation employee, you may have business connections or may have had dinners over times with certain types of game developers or Capcom or Ubisoft or whatever. And typically, if you're like, hey, yo, I got a brand new job working at Xbox, and hey, we had a really good time, we're good buds, we talk outside of work, you want to go make some cool deals happen so I can impress Phil Spencer in the background. And number three, I think the biggest news is that Japan is a very weak market when it comes to Xbox. Xbox has been very basic and is barely even existent in the Japanese ecosystem. Although, I'm sure you guys have seen there's a lot of really good Japanese-based games, and even for that, some stuff like, say, Genshin. Maybe more so just Asian in styled, but games like Genshin or Honkai are pretty much more prevalent when it comes to Japan, and well, obviously these games are always very good. But the one big thing is that these games are more prevalent than as well on PlayStation due to both the homegrown Japanese side, but as well because they have the business partnerships. Like, Genshin is basically not really existing in the Xbox ecosystem, and then it has made PlayStation a bajillion dollars. And, well, this is all kind of a huge big trade-off that we're going to go dive into as of right now. Where Minasato Kato, well, is that right? was previously the vice president of mobile business for Sony. So they have these big business connections. They've been involved in the ecosystem, probably sat in these really big boardrooms. And, well, at this point, they are now gone. So the very big higher up points over here is that Minasato Kato worked previously as the vice president of mobile business for Sony Interactive Entertainment. This is not a low, this is like a big deal. That's a pretty big higher up in my opinion. She was with Sony for around 8 years before leaving in 2021. According to an announcement on her LinkedIn, which people are browsing, she has been hired by Xbox as the director of partnerships in Japan as part of the gaming ecosystem organization, which I'm going to ramble into, is kind of big, but that just basically means that this is a huge win. This is going to be them trying to go get as many Japanese partnerships and expand out the both Game Pass and as well as also normal just games or even think free-to-play games and have them be fostered on both the PC, Windows, Microsoft Store, and of course Xbox consoles, and even maybe other various things too as well, like mobile or cloud gaming, which will be an absolute huge explosion for games, but as well as also maybe a bigger viewer base and also user base in Japan. And then Minasato Kato lists on LinkedIn that she is responsible for leading partnerships for Japanese publishers at Xbox. And you guys have maybe seen these kind of talk a little bit more. Is that a lot of these games, like say for Square Enix and Final Fantasy 16, it's not on Xbox as of right this second. And we don't really know why, probably just because they have a closer business connection with PlayStation, but this actually may have a chance to go and change. So there's one thing fans of Xbox are very vocal about missing out on is JRPGs and other large releases from Japanese developers or publishers. And I would agree on this one. Like I said, even things such as Genshin were never really had a chance to foster on Xbox, and that could have been printing money. That was an underground partnership that PlayStation was like, yeah, sure, you put on here, why not? And yeah, they made a lot of money, and at this point probably fostered an even better connection to with Ohio as well. So PlayStation's ongoing love affair with Square Enix has led to Xbox players missing out on the Final Fantasy VII Remaster and Final Fantasy XVI. However, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer recently appeared on the Square Enix stage to announce a new partnership to bring even more Square Enix titles to the console itself. However, a recent job change announced on LinkedIn may be just what Xbox needs to develop better relationships with these Japanese publishers. And like I said, this is a very bare bones as of right this second. There's a lot of games that are not involved. There's a lot of game companies that are not involved. There's a lot of those places that and games that need to be on Xbox that aren't currently on here. And if you have a brand new person with prior connections getting involved in this, that's a big, big win. And this is where Mina said, excited to say I've joined Microsoft as Director for Partnerships, Japan at Xbox. I will be leading partnership efforts to support our Japanese partners globally, opening a new chapter, unlocking new experiences in the games industry. I hope to see many of you at the TGS. Minasato Kato, an executive who spent 8 years in leadership roles at Sony Interactive Entertainment, announced that she has joined Xbox for this big, big role. According to her as well, her new role at Xbox will be to lead partnerships, as we kind of covered throughout this video. She expects the role to be a new chapter and one that will be unlocking new experiences in the game industry. Now, this is kind of a big thing. Like, to me, this is huge, as you guys could probably hear. But one thing to kind of go and note to as well is that it hasn't really been too relevant. If you look at some of these things in, say, Xbox in Japan, like the Xbox Series X and S has sold only 400,000 units, which is not horrible per se, but it could be way better. It's kind of on the mediocre side in 30 months. Like, this is very low. While the Xbox 360 sold 600,000 units as well, which at least in comparison to the Xbox 360, it is doing better. It is, like a better trajectory. The numbers are going well. It's still kind of mediocre. Month 30 for the Xbox Series X and S in May 2023, and the Xbox 360 is June 2008. So as of right this second, like, you guys can see just some really rough numbers. Like, we've talked about this before. If you guys want to look at the total numbers as well, like, they're just not a lot. Like, these sales are very low. They're better than the Xbox One. Xbox 360 is kind of on a somewhat similar trajectory too as well, but it kind of plateau off. But you guys can see just basically no one cares. Like, no one really cares too much about the Xbox in Japan. The sales are slowly getting there, but the PlayStation is so much bigger as of right this second. And this is entirely because they just never really cared about the Japanese base. Like, there's a lot of game companies, think Nintendo, think Sony, based up in Japan. And these are cool games you can maybe have like combinations with or connections. Think other things like, like there's just a lot of companies, like say a Konami. A lot of very OG game companies over there are in Japan, and they just avoid them for God knows why. And there is a little bit of like a nationalistic type thing for places like Japan, where they care about the homegrown businesses because they want their local economies and like their family and their friends and grandparents to, number one, both be proud, but number two as well, like just they want to make sure it's like nationalistic. It's fine. Like, if some people are American, they want to be proud to be an American. That's how it is for Japan. They want to make Japanese companies work with other Japanese companies, and the government also definitely entices that. And it's kind of probably why Xbox has been, I don't want to say shunned per se, but it hasn't had the best connections with it. It's not like a homegrown boy. They're like the random Americans trying to come into town, and not to hopefully not sound racist or bad. That's just kind of how it is. But this is kind of why you want to have someone who has these connections and the business skills, and as well, them kind of slowly opening up to, say, like the Final Fantasy news and Square Enix news. That's exactly what Xbox needs to go and have this next second wind. They need to go and keep on expanding out into the entire global economy, and there's places out there that they do okay in, like, say, like the UK, Europe, and also America. There's also a lot of places such as like Australia, India, Japan, even places like China, Korea, where they're very, very lackluster and they don't have as many things as well. So this is a very, very intriguing next big thing, because this is going to be huge. Like, this should be where Xbox can now expand. Xbox can get more Microsoft and PC games. This also just all around is a win for everyone, because more games available for everyone kind of also offers, well, more better price points, maybe better microtransactions, maybe more money for developing and making games better. And obviously for something like a Final Fantasy 16, if that was released on PC and Xbox simultaneously, maybe at the same time it would have had better sales. And with all of that put together, maybe, well, we'd have maybe a higher likelihood of Final Fantasy 17 coming out quicker, or better games or DLCs. It basically just kind of keeps the gaming ecosystem alive as we all know it. So I want to hear your thoughts, because this is a huge stolen employee. I want to say stolen, they chose it themselves, but it's a really big employee switch off, really good employee overall. And on top of this too, well, I think it's just kind of cool. So give me your thoughts and comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have Twitter and Twitch down below. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.